So I'm 27 years old and got hitched to my guy Adam, who's 30, about a year back. We had been a thing for 2 years before we tied the knot. I've hung out with his family a bunch of times and things were pretty chill until not too long ago. We were over at his folks' place, just hanging out, when the chat took a turn towards the topic of having kids. I just threw out there, pretty laid back, that being a mom wasn't really something I saw in my future. Adam and I had already had plenty of talks about this kid stuff, and we're totally in sync. Neither of us is looking to be parents. Well, during this dinner, Adam's mom, Sarah, who's 52, was the one who got the ball rolling on this conversation. And when Adam and I shared our no kids ever plan, she went into full-on persuasion mode, trying her best to get us to reconsider, aiming a lot of her effort at me. Sarah kept pushing the whole, you should have kids thing, for a couple more days. I finally had enough and laid it out for her straight. I wasn't interested in having kids, and neither was Adam. I wanted to put an end to that conversation once and for all. I set my boundaries pretty clearly, but it seemed like Sarah just couldn't deal with it. After I stood my ground, she started to give me the cold shoulder and acted pretty weird whenever I was around. Adam's dad, Jake, who's 53, didn't really get involved, which was kind of a relief. I did bring up how Sarah was treating me to Adam. He seemed to think his mom was just having a hard time with our decision, but believed she'd get over it eventually. After all, it wasn't up to her to decide if we should have kids. Adam figured she was just in a huff for now, but would have to accept it sooner or later. Even after all that drama with Sarah, there was no way we were going to change our minds about not having kids. Chatting with Adam about the whole thing made me feel a lot better. Plus, we couldn't just stop visiting his folks since Jake, Adam's dad, wasn't feeling too good. I figured I shouldn't make a fuss about Sarah's attitude. So, I decided to just be as nice and friendly as I could whenever we were around her, even if she wasn't exactly being super nice back to me. A few days back, we were all jazzed up for this big 25th wedding anniversary bash. It was put together by Adam's older bro, who happens to be a surgeon. This means he's got the bucks to throw a really swanky party, and he did just that. He invited pretty much everyone we know, including my folks. The vibe was awesome, and we were all having a blast, even though Sarah, you know, the one married to Adam's brother, was kind of giving me the cold shoulder. But hey, I wasn't letting it bug me. I was too busy enjoying the party with my husband and my parents. Then, the big moment came to cut the cake. I already knew I was going to have to pass on it because it was a chocolate peanut butter cake. And yeah, peanuts and we don't mix. I'm super allergic to them. And from what I heard, this cake was packed with nuts, which kind of makes you think of Sarah, doesn't it? Anyway, Sarah and Jake, that's Adam's brother, did the whole cake-cutting ceremony. It was a really nice moment, honestly, and everyone was clapping and cheering. Then, they started handing out slices of the cake to everyone. Obviously, I didn't grab a slice because of my allergy, and that was cool with me. Everyone there knew about my nut situation, so it wasn't a big deal that I skipped the cake. But for some wild reason, Sarah noticed I was sitting there cakeless and decided to make it her mission to come over and make a scene. She was all like, "Oh, not feeling like having cake today?" So my friend offered me a piece of her cake to try. I said no thanks in a nice way, which was kind of awkward because she knows I can't eat it. I'm allergic, but she wouldn't let it go. She kept saying, "Come on, just try a tiny bit," even though I told her over and over that I really can't because of my allergy. She acted like it was no big deal and that a small bite wouldn't do anything bad. But I knew better than to take the chance. We went back and forth like this for what felt like forever until she finally said, "Just eat it." And then, before I knew what was happening, she pushed the cake right into my face. I spit it out right away and had to ask my buddy Adam for a tissue to clean up the mess and make sure I got all of it off me. So after that whole cake in my face mess, I was totally grossed out. I mean, I was there trying to wash my mouth out, spitting and everything, while Adam was having a go at his mom for what she did. It took me a little bit to calm down from that crazy surprise. But once I did, I went straight back to talk to Sarah. I had to let her know how out of line she was. I told her straight up, what you just did, totally crazy. I'm not coming back here. You've got some serious issues if you think that was okay. Then I got into the whole thing about kids. I was like, just because I don't want to have kids doesn't give you the right to treat me badly. And it definitely doesn't mean you can just do whatever you want to me, like trying to make me sick with my allergy. That's nuts. I made it clear that the only opinions that matter about having kids are mine and Adam's, not hers. Trying to hurt me because I don't want to give her grandkids? That's way over the top and totally not okay. So, after all that mess with the cake, I knew exactly why Sarah was acting so weird. And I wasn't scared of her at all. I wanted to make sure she knew that. When I called her out, she tried to say she didn't realize my allergies were a big deal. But come on, that was a huge fib. She's known me for like 3 years, and she's made tons of meals for me. She totally knew about my nut allergy, so pretending she didn't was just silly. Nobody was going to fall for that. I didn't beat around the bush. I told her straight up that I didn't believe a single word coming out of her mouth and called her out for lying. That really got her mad. She then tried to say she didn't believe I was really allergic, or that her son Adam didn't want kids just because he knew she wanted grandkids. She thought he wouldn't miss out on giving her the happiness of being a grandma. But that's just not how things were. And her thinking it could be any different was just crazy talk. So, things got even crazier. Sarah actually said I was pretending to be allergic just to get attention. Can you believe that? And then she suggested that the real reason I didn't want kids, and supposedly convinced her son Adam to feel the same, was because I might not be able to have them. That was the last straw for me. I was so mad. In a moment of total frustration, I did something I've never done before. I grabbed a piece of cake from Adam's plate and smushed it right into Sarah's face, asking, "How do you like it?" It was like everything inside me just boiled over. After that, I didn't stick around to hear what anyone else had to say. I just left, stormed out to my car, and luckily, Adam and my parents were right behind me. We all got into the car, and the ride back home was super quiet. Nobody said a word. I dropped my parents off at their place, and then Adam and I went home. Even then, we didn't talk. The house was just filled with silence for like an hour or more. So after all that drama at the party, Adam decided to give me some space to cool off before he came to talk to me. Later that evening, he made us some coffee, and we finally sat down together in the living room to chat about what had gone down. I kicked things off by saying sorry to him. I know it wasn't really my fault, but I still felt super embarrassed about how I reacted. Adam was really understanding. He told me not to worry about it because he knew I wasn't the one who should be apologizing. He then filled me in on the gossip from the party after we left. It turns out Sarah started crying when Adam decided to leave with me instead of hanging around. She made a big show of being upset, and her family totally ate it up. They started trash-talking me, saying really mean stuff, and even accused me of trying to pull Adam away from them. But then, Adam told me something unexpected. Jake, of all people, was the one who stood up and called Sarah out on her nonsense. That was a surprise because Jake usually keeps his distance from any family drama, especially if it involves his wife. This time around, Jake really stepped up in a way we didn't expect. He took a stand for us and laid it out straight to Sarah. She was the one causing all the trouble, nobody else. Jake pointed out that Sarah has always liked being in charge, always wanting things her way. And anytime someone did something that didn't fit into her perfect little plan, boom. There was a huge argument. It got so awkward for everyone else. They just had to sit there, watching, while Sarah went off on whoever it was this time. Sarah didn't take that too well. She accused Jake of taking sides with me and Adam, saying Adam was being unfair for leaving with me. But Jake? He didn't back down. He stood his ground, keeping up the argument against Sarah's complaints. This went back and forth until Adam's older brother had to step in and break it up. That pretty much ended the party right there. Everyone was so done with the drama, they just went home. The coolest part? One of Adam's cousins caught the whole argument on video. Watching that video later, seeing Jake defend us against Sarah's accusations was kind of awesome. It's not every day you get to see someone stand up to Sarah like that. Especially someone from within the family who usually avoids getting into these kinds of messes. So, after everything that went down, only a few people are actually on our side. That's just Sarah and a couple of other family members. Adam's brother, on the other hand, thinks I should be the one to say sorry. He feels like I made a big deal out of nothing and turned their anniversary party into a drama about me and my issues with Sarah. He's not the only one who feels that way. Sarah's whole family seems to think I owe them an apology. They're all saying the big argument wasn't even supposed to be about whether we want kids or anything like that. But somehow, I made it about that. They believe I took things too far. According to them, if Sarah trying to make me eat the cake really bugged me that much, I should have just left the party instead of hitting back and causing a scene. And now, they're all saying that it's my fault Jake and Sarah got into that huge fight. They think if I hadn't reacted the way I did, none of that would have happened. So if I had just decided to leave the party quietly after Sarah tried to make me eat the cake, all of this drama could have been avoided. No one would have had to witness that big blow-up. But after everything that happened, Adam ended up talking to his brother. He made it clear that I wasn't going to say sorry because from my point of view, none of this mess was really my fault. However, it seems like everyone else is pretty much convinced that I'm the bad guy here. They think I deliberately messed up Sarah's anniversary party and that I'm the reason Jake and Sarah ended up fighting on such an important day. The aftermath of the fight is pretty serious too. Sarah and Jake are in a really rough spot right now. Sarah was so upset after their argument that she packed up some of her stuff and decided to stay with a friend for a while. And from what I've heard, Jake hasn't made any moves to call her or try to fix things between them. So now, I'm being blamed for causing a huge fight with my mother-in-law on her anniversary, all because she was trying to make me eat cake when she knows I shouldn't. Update 1. Hey, I just want to say a huge thanks. Adam and I have been reading through all the comments, and wow, we're blown away by how many of you have our backs. It's been amazing to see so many people telling us that we're not to blame for what went down. I won't lie. When I first heard that Jake and Sarah were having such a tough time after their argument that they weren't even talking to each other, I felt a little guilty. Like maybe somehow, it was a bit my fault. But then, I started reading all your messages and comments. You all made me see things differently. It's not on me. It's on Sarah. She's the one who turned her own anniversary party upside down. And let's be real. She didn't make the party about me. Nope. She made it about her problems with me, which is so not cool. That day was supposed to be about celebrating her and Jake's marriage, their special day. But instead, she chose to focus on stuff that had nothing to do with the celebration. So, Sarah decided to do something really not cool. She tried to make me eat a piece of cake, fully knowing that I'm allergic to it. It seemed like she did it just for fun or something. But then, when things started to go south, she flipped the script. She began crying and acting like she was the one who got hurt. Pretending as if she hadn't just tried to cause me a serious allergic reaction. And why? All because I had been honest with her about not wanting to have kids. It's not like she doesn't have any grandkids at all. It's just that she won't be getting any from me. And that's what seemed to set her off. But honestly, she's the one who messed up her own party, not me. I don't owe her an apology, and I definitely don't owe her grandchildren. A few days have passed since then, and Adam's brother, along with a few other family members, keeps texting him. They're always giving him these updates about how Sarah is doing, which is basically their way of saying she's still upset. They keep hinting that it's somehow our fault that she's feeling miserable. Adam has been getting all these texts from his brother and some other relatives, keeping him in the loop about how Sarah has been feeling. But here's the thing. Adam hasn't texted back. He's just letting those messages sit there, not really engaging with them. He hasn't gone as far as blocking their numbers, though. He's kind of keeping that line open just in case Sarah decides to really lose it and do something wild. He wants to be in the know if things get way too crazy for them to handle, just in case things go off the rails, you know? On the flip side, Jake seems to be doing all right. We actually dropped by his place recently to check in on him, see how he's holding up without Sarah around. And guess what? He seems totally fine with the situation. He shared with us that he's been keeping quiet for a while, even though he noticed Sarah was getting way too pushy and trying to control everything. He kind of saw it coming that eventually either Adam or I would reach our breaking point with her. Jake had really tried, to get Sarah to see reason before everything blew up. He'd sit her down and try to talk to her, telling her she needed to chill out and listen to what others were feeling. But it was like talking to a brick wall. Sarah just wouldn't hear it. Then at the party, after we had left and Sarah started her waterworks, Jake just couldn't stand by and watch. He's seen this act too many times. He knew Sarah was just putting on a show to make people feel sorry for her because she messed up big time. So he did what he does. He called her out, straight up told her he could see right through her act. And Sarah? She couldn't deal with someone telling her she was wrong. That's when she decided to pack up some things and take off. Jake shared with us that he's pretty sure Sarah is waiting for him to come crawling back, saying he's sorry for what he said and how he said it. But Jake's done with that game. He's been around too long to keep saying sorry for just speaking his mind, especially when he believes he's right. He's thinking, if after 25 years together Sarah can't handle a bit of honesty, maybe they really shouldn't be together. He's at a point where he's just tired of having to watch his words all the time. Update 2. So, after I last filled you in, a couple of new things went down. First off, Sarah got in touch with Adam. She wanted to know why he was hanging out with Jake but not bothering to see her. It looks like some neighbors must have seen us visiting Jake and decided to let Sarah know. Adam was pretty straightforward with her. He told her that the whole mess at the party was really her doing, so he thought his dad, Jake, needed his support way more than Sarah did. Especially since Sarah seemed to be just looking for people to feel sorry for her. Adam and I weren't falling for her act anymore. But Sarah didn't like hearing that one bit. And it led to a big argument over the phone. Then, for whatever reason, she started blaming me, saying I was the reason Adam was acting this way towards her. According to Sarah, I must have turned Adam against her, even though she's pretty good at doing that all by herself. She was convinced that I was behind everything going wrong. Adam tried to set the record straight, telling her that he was thinking for himself and that I wasn't to blame. But Sarah wasn't having any of it. She kept saying it was all my fault, no matter what Adam said. So, Sarah has been really upset with me, all because I've decided I don't want kids. It's such a silly reason to be mad at someone, if you ask me. I finally told Adam that I was done dealing with her drama. I said, if she calls again, just don't bother picking up. There's no point in trying to talk things through with her. Adam was totally on board with this, because honestly, trying to reason with Sarah is like talking to a brick wall at this point. And then there's another thing that went down. We went over to Jake's place yesterday evening, and something pretty unexpected happened. Jake, who usually stays away from alcohol because of his health, offered us drinks. We were a bit hesitant at first, not sure if it was a good idea, but Jake was all for it. It turns out he had a big reason for breaking his usual rule. He had talked to a lawyer earlier about getting a divorce. Deciding to get a divorce after being married for 25 years is a huge deal. When Jake told us about it, we were like, "Are you sure about this?" But Jake didn't seem bothered or sad at all. Adam, on the other hand, was pretty shocked. It took him a bit to really understand what was happening. Jake explained that he had thought it through and believed that getting a divorce was the right thing to do, given everything that was going on. He shared with us that he hadn't been happy for a while. Sarah's behavior was just getting more and more difficult to deal with. We were curious about how long he'd been feeling this way, expecting him to say it had been a couple of months or so. But then Jake surprised us by saying he had been thinking about getting a divorce for almost 10 years. That was way longer than we had imagined. Jake shared with us a bit of a backstory. When Adam turned 20 and was just about to finish college, Jake started thinking seriously about his own future. He saw that Adam was growing up, getting ready to take on the world and manage his own money. This got Jake thinking about his own dreams, especially about starting a new business with his brother. They had been tossing this idea back and forth for a while. But Jake had always held back from taking the leap. You see, Jake had a lot on his plate. He had a family to take care of, which his brother didn't. And that meant he had a bunch of extra bills and responsibilities to worry about. Jumping into a brand new business is a big risk. It's not like changing jobs. Starting from scratch means you might not make money for a while. And with a family depending on him, Jake couldn't just walk away from his steady job. However, once Adam was done with college, Jake felt like maybe the time had finally come. He was on the verge of quitting his job to dive into this new venture with his brother. But then there was a hiccup. When Jake talked to Sarah about this big change, she wasn't on board. She thought it was a bad move. Sarah was worried because starting a business is unpredictable. There's no guarantee it will succeed. Her doubts made Jake rethink the whole plan. And eventually, he decided not to go through with quitting his job and starting the business. So there was also this thing about Adam not having a job right after college, which meant he'd probably need some financial support for a bit until he found his footing. Jake thought about this and figured he could maybe balance both worlds. He suggested working part-time in the new business while keeping his current job. It sounded like a plan that could work, right? But Sarah wasn't having any of it. She was really against the idea and pushed Jake so hard that he ended up dropping the whole business venture idea completely. Now, looking at how things turned out, Jake's brother went ahead with the business all by himself. And guess what? He's making a killing, earning almost triple what Jake does. Jake and his brother still talk all the time, and there's not a single day Jake doesn't kick himself for listening to Sarah back then. Sarah didn't just disagree with him. She basically told him, if you do this, I'm taking Adam and leaving. That kind of put Jake in a spot where he felt he had no choice but to let go of the business dream. Jake's brother is still holding the door open for him to join the business. But Jake feels like that ship has sailed. He's thinking he's too old now and is planning to retire in just a few years. He doesn't see the point in jumping into something new at this stage of his life. When Adam heard his dad talk about missing out on what could have been just because he listened to Sarah, it really got to him. Adam could barely hold back his tears, seeing how sad his dad was about the chances he didn't take. And here's the thing. Jake is actually a super smart guy. He's got a great head on his shoulders. If Jake thinks something's a good idea, you can bet it probably is. His brother proved that by taking Jake's business idea and turning it into a huge success. Adam really wanted his dad to reconsider and take whatever job his uncle was offering, even if retirement was just around the corner. Adam thought it was better for Jake to try and not wonder what if than to never know at all. Jake kept saying it was too late for him to make a change, even though his brother was ready to welcome him as a partner. He just didn't have the heart for it anymore. Hearing Jake talk like this bummed us all out. So Adam and I made a plan. We decided we'd cheer Jake up and convince him that it's never too late to go after what you want. We were determined to get Jake to talk to his brother and take a chance on joining the business. After all, doing something for yourself, especially something that could make you happy and fulfilled, is always worth it. No matter how old you are or how close to retirement you might be. So Adam and I had a bit of a mission. We know it sounded a bit like something out of a movie with all the dramatic speeches and stuff, but we actually managed to get Jake to think about giving his brother a call. We wanted him to at least have a chat about the business opportunity. And yeah, we're totally there for Jake with the whole divorce thing. It's clear as day that Sarah can't keep trying to run everyone's life like she's the boss of the universe and expect no one to stand up to her. The way she's been treating Jake just isn't right. And don't even get me started on how she's been with me and Adam lately. It's all kinds of wrong. She really needs to get it into her head that it's not okay to push people around, trying to bully them into doing whatever she wants. It totally clicked for Jake too, especially after that mess at the party where Sarah tried to embarrass us just because we weren't following her every command. And can you believe it? Even with everything she's done, she's still acting like she's the one who's been wronged here. Honestly, I've stopped feeling sorry for her. The way she acts, she really doesn't deserve anyone's sympathy. Anyone who's buying into her story, acting like she's some sort of tragic hero, has got to be either totally clueless or just in it for the gossip. That's the long and short of it, really. Update 3. So, big news. Jake and his lawyer officially started the divorce process today, and Adam was right there with them. Adam told me how relieved Jake seemed after everything was filed. They even went out to celebrate with some drinks. I was swamped with work and couldn't go, but I'm really glad Jake's taking steps to live life on his terms. Jake's in his 50s now, and honestly, he's earned the right to chase what makes him happy. He spent so much time worrying about what his wife would think or how his decisions would affect his son. It kind of highlights another reason why I've decided against having kids. I just don't think I could constantly put someone else's needs ahead of my own all the time, and Adam feels the same way. Then you've got people like Sarah, who seem to have kids for the wrong reasons, like they want someone to control or to always put their needs first, even over their kids. It's been quiet on Sarah's end for a few days now. Maybe she's taking a break from playing the victim, or perhaps she's gearing up for a big, dramatic return. With Sarah, you never really know. The timing of her next move could be interesting, especially with the divorce papers on their way. If she decides to make a scene before getting those papers, things could get super awkward. Adam and I have talked about it, and we're pretty sure she's going to have a meltdown no matter what. But it'd definitely be messy if she decides to show up in person before finding out about the divorce. We're just hoping she keeps her distance a little longer. It'd make things a bit easier if she doesn't come back right before the divorce news hits her. Keeping my fingers crossed that we get a little more peace before the storm. So, the other day, Sarah got the divorce papers, and boy, did she have a meltdown. But here's the twist. She wasn't flipping out on Jake, the guy she's actually divorcing. Nope, she decided I was the villain in her story. Totally didn't see that one coming. I mean, how could she possibly twist this whole thing to make it seem like it's my fault? This was supposed to be about her and Jake sorting out their stuff, not me. But Sarah, being Sarah, took to the internet to air her grievances. She put up this huge post claiming that I somehow brainwashed Jake into leaving her. According to her, we're all throwing a party now because I won and she lost. Which is bonkers, because there was no battle to win. I wasn't trying to compete with her for anything. The idea that she sees me as some kind of rival is just bizarre. I mean, she's much older than me, and let's not forget, she's my mother-in-law. That's not exactly the basis for a rivalry in my book. And the weirdest part? She didn't even try to talk to Adam or Jake before blasting this all over the internet. She wrote like 3 whole paragraphs about how I'm the villain of her life story, turning everyone she cares about against her. Only towards the end did she say that she was very disappointed with the other 2 as well. So falling for my manipulation and deception, it was crazy to me how everything in her life has started to revolve around me. And it's honestly kind of creepy. Adam has blocked out and so have I. But her relatives keep texting me to tell me how evil I am. It's sad because they think it bothers me. But it only makes me laugh at how stupid they're being. Even if I actually was a master manipulator, I couldn't manipulate someone into leaving their wife unless they actually wanted to. Deep down, and I guess people as stupid as them are forgetting that, because to them, it's only important that they blame me and paint me as the villain. Jake has apologized for it, even though he has no reason to apologize to me because none of this is his fault. It's his soon-to-be ex-wife's. But I appreciate the fact that he's trying to be nice, since not a lot of people are built that way, especially in Adam's family. But either way, they're going to get a divorce. And blaming me is not going to change the facts. So the sooner she accepts it, the better it is for her. Adam and I are happy anyway, so if she's miserable because of that, then that's her own problem.